Hi, and welcome to Plane Legacy. I'm Bill, and today we're taking a look at another aircraft from the Grumman Iron Works, so called because of the rugged dependability of their aircraft designs. For 23 years, this rugged twin-engine flying boat equipped Air Force rescue squadrons, providing life-saving action during both the Korean and Vietnam Wars and beyond. The HU-16 Albatross patrolled oceans in peacetime and flew hazardous wartime missions, often in enemy-controlled territory. In this episode, we'll look at the design of the Albatross, as well as differences in the long-wing version featured in this video. We'll mention some of the ways it was used, including an overview of its service during Operation Rolling Thunder. The descendant of a successful line of Grumman flying boats, the Albatross first took to the air on October 24, 1947 as the XJR-2F-1 Pelican, and entered service 2 years later as the SA-16 Albatross. The Strategic Air Command and Aerospace Museum writes, quote, "The Albatross began as a Navy aircraft," and they went on to explain that the Navy initially intended to use the aircraft as an anti-submarine warfare platform, but later changed their request to the order of 6 utility aircraft, at the time known as the UF-1. In the meantime, the Air Force, who wanted the aircraft for a search and rescue platform all along, placed the first order for 52 SA-16s, and therefore they received the first production Albatross. Except for fabric-covered elevators and rudder, it featured all-metal construction with one-piece flight controls. Flaps were hydraulically actuated, and hydraulic boost was provided for the rudder controls. We can see one of those hydraulic boost controls here in this photo. These aircraft were built for the military, mostly for search and rescue, though they were sometimes deployed for utility transport or training roles. The Navy History and Heritage Command writes, quote, "The last in a line of successful amphibians produced for the Navy by Grumman. The HU-16 Albatross's inherent ruggedness enabled it to operate from many harsh environments, which included the Antarctic, Greenland, and Alaska." The HU-16 was a larger version of Grumman's Mallard flying boat with a deep V hull for rough sea operations, and it could be equipped with Aerojet RATO or rocket-assisted takeoff units. These units produced 1,000 pounds thrust each, and up to 2 could be fitted to each side of the aircraft. Here we see a RATO unit that has been hung on the side of the aircraft just below the open hatch. The maximum takeoff weight from water was 34,000 pounds using the RATO units, while its maximum water landing weight was 32,000 pounds. It featured fully retractable tricycle landing gear with the main gear folding up into the sides and a nose wheel retracting into the hull. It could also be outfitted with skis for landing on snow or ice. Throughout its life, the Albatross was powered by 2 of the widely produced Wright R1820-76 Cyclone radial engines. This variant of the R1820 was a 9-cylinder single-row radial engine rated at 1,275 horsepower at 2,500 RPM and 1,425 horsepower at 2,700 RPM for takeoff. The Albatross was equipped with 3-bladed Hamilton Standard variable pitch reversible constant speed propellers with an 11-foot diameter. Fuel supply included 675 gallons stored internally, and on most models a total of 400 gallons of fuel could be stored in the floats, 200 gallons in each float. 300-gallon drop tanks could also be fitted. The typical crew is made up of 4 to 6 members depending on the mission. Either 10 passengers in the transport role or 12 litters in a medical evacuation could be carried. In 1962, the military updated designations for all its aircraft, and the Air Force's SA-16 and the Navy's UF-1 and JR-2F-1 became simply the HU-16. The Albatross was generally equipped with AN/APS-31 search radar, initially placed in a wing-mounted pod, but later mounted in a conical dome on the nose of the aircraft. The Albatross proved dependable and surprisingly efficient. The Navy History and Heritage Command points out, quote, "As a testament to its capabilities, Coast Guard and Navy pilots established 7 world-class speed and altitude records with payload in the Albatross during August and September of 1962. The initial version, the HU-16A, flew search and rescue missions for the Air Force, notably during the Korean War. The Air Force states that these aircraft, quote, rescued nearly 1,000 UN personnel during the Korean War from coastal waters and rivers, often conducted in areas under enemy control. The Air Force received 297 16As, while the Navy reportedly received 95, which were designated the HU-16C. Just over 50 were produced for the Coast Guard. The 16A's wing featured fixed leading-edge slots with an 80-foot wingspan and a length of 62 feet 10 inches and was just under 26 feet tall. The A version had a cruise speed of 154 miles per hour and a maximum speed of 235 miles per hour. The service ceiling has been reported as 23,800 feet. In 1955, an upgrade to a longer wing variant was proposed to increase lift and range, and it was designated the HU-16B in the Air Force and the HU-16D or Delta in the Navy version. The wingspan was increased to 96 feet 8 inches, over 16 feet longer than the A version. Additionally, it featured a fixed leading edge with a droop, sometimes called cuffed, a leading edge camber for better low-speed handling and stall performance. The tail was enlarged and featured redesigned elevators. A structural drawback to the longer wing design, however, was a limit for the life of the spar to reportedly 11,000 hours. The last Albatross was delivered in 1961. The Long Wing 16B was the variant used by the U.S. Air Force for search and rescue during the Vietnam War. Many of these operations took place along the North Vietnamese coast in the Gulf of Tonkin. As an example, during 1965's Operation Rolling Thunder, HU-16s orbited in 2 shifts daily, just 20 miles off the North Vietnamese coast. Flying from sunrise to noon, with a second shift flying noon to sunset, they maintained their pattern using TACAN, tactical air navigation. Armed aircraft, such as the A-1 Skyraider, circled nearby as the RESCAP, or Rescue Combat Air Patrol. Their function was discouraging any hostile force that might threaten downed airmen, and by extension, the Albatross itself. The HU-16s could either mark a downed aircrew's position for Navy helos to rescue, or they could conduct a water rescue personally. Sources credit HU-16s operating from Da Nang with rescuing 35 U.S. and 1 South Vietnamese aircrew during the Rolling Thunder campaign. The Albatross remained in service with the Air Force until 1973. The aircraft featured in today's episode was among the last of those operational HU-16Bs and can be found at the National Museum of the United States Air Force. It is noted for establishing a world altitude record for twin-engine amphibious aircraft when it was flown to 32,883 feet on July 4, 1973. Shortly after that flight, it joined the museum's collection. Thank you for watching today's episode on Plane Legacy. If you enjoyed seeing the Albatross, consider giving this episode a thumbs up and subscribe if you want to be notified of upcoming episodes. Feel free to share this episode with your aviation and history-minded friends. Comment about your experience with the Albatross, A or B version, or tell us what impresses you the most about this rugged, life-saving aircraft. And we'll see you next time right here on Plane Legacy.